As the world opens up, we should continue to build the immune system and be conscious of the environmental factors that affect our ability to fight off foreign invaders.
So, how does our immune system work? Well, it is the spike proteins that are the key. As soon as our immune system meets a new virus, it identifies the new spike proteins and begins to build the manufacturing process for new antibodies. As soon as these antibodies are produced, they begin to attach to each spike protein. This means the virus cannot enter a human cell, so it eventually dies without replicating. It is the time taken by the immune system between finding the new virus and manufacturing new antibodies that is the difference between getting sick and not.
Joining us to give us insight on this topic is our weekly contributor, Dr. Akili Muhammad. Greetings, sir.
Greetings, ma'am. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is the immune system, Dr. Akili?
Well, I typically describe the immune system as our own personal security system. I thought that the video that we just watched was a good example because it kind of gives you a visual of what a invader in the body looks like versus what one of your cells will do to basically destroy that invader. And the video is also very accurate in that when we keep our immune system strong, there will not be any symptoms of that virus, bacteria, or anything else that could attack us. When our immune systems are strong, we stop it right at the moment that that security notices that there's something wrong. So if you think about a time when you've been in a store or a large warehouse type place where you are shopping,
Yes.
and if something happens, you see security guards walking around, right? And they may hit the radio and call for backup, or they'll say something is happening in this particular area. Next thing you know, there are many security guards in that area dealing with that particular situation. That's what the immune system is in the body. Constant blood flow, constant immune cells, constant cells in the actual tissues of our body that are just walking around and looking and making sure that everything is working and looking good. And when there's something that is not, that's what they do. They send out signals so that helpers will come, and whatever the problem is, the body is ready to take care of that in a very serious, it's a very serious attack. So when something comes into the body, when the immune system is right, it's not going to stand a chance because the immune system is that powerful when it's taken care of correctly, that it will solve the problem quickly. And then just like if you were in a store again and let's say two people were tussling and they knocked down a couple of tables and some of the merchandise is on the floor and some things are broken. Well, not only is the immune system going to stop the fight, separate the people, and in the body, it would kill the people, it would kill the infection. And then it's going to clean up and fix the table and sweep up the floor and all those type of things. So that's what the immune system does. It takes care of the body in a beautiful way when we're taking care of it correctly.
Now, Dr. Akili, what would you say is the best way to take care of our immune system?
Well, I think, in a day and time that we live in now, I think the first part of having a good immune system is the way that we think. Here we are in 2021, and many people have been convinced that a vaccine is the best way to get you out of a situation that we're in. Well, if we evaluate that from a spiritual perspective, the first question we should ask ourselves is, how can a man or a woman, or this beautiful Black sister, Dr. Kamizia Corbin,
Right.
go into a lab with her other friends and colleagues and produce something that we're going to inject into your body, and that's going to work better than the system that God gave you?
Right.
I will never, as long as I live, think that humans can do something better than God.
Right.
And so to me, that's the first step that we as Black people, as brown people, as indigenous people, and poor people have to start stepping back and saying, if I'm going to say I believe in God, then how do I use God to evaluate the things that I'm doing? How do I use God to evaluate the things that I'm eating? How do I use God to evaluate the things that I do every day that are either going to strengthen my system or weaken my system? And then we have to start acting accordingly. But honestly, that may sound a little strange to people, but it's very important. The way we think is supremely important to what it is that we exact in our actions and the results of them.
And to your point, for those who think that it sounds strange, what other evidence is there that our innate immune system is adequate enough to keep us protected?
Yeah, so of course, we're in a pandemic right now, and the evidence that we're seeing right in front of our face is that around the world, 97 to 98% of the people that were infected with coronavirus, COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, whatever you want to call it, they recover with very mild symptoms. And the other thing that we can add to that to make that point is that every other major viral infectious pandemic or epidemic, and I shouldn't say pandemic, epidemic that has happened over the last 10, 15, 20 years, the same conclusion we can come to. When you're talking about Ebola, when you're talking about the bird flu, swine flu, all of these different infections that are novel, they were new over these last years. The people who took care of themselves the best, the people that ate correctly, rested well, fasted, did physical activity, keep their bodies in shape, got sunshine. These people fared better in every single one of these epidemics that happened. Of course, we're in America, but a lot of these epidemics that I just mentioned happened in other countries.
Right.
But in those countries, people did much better when they took care of themselves better. So I think that is obvious evidence that when we do the preventive things, and that is to take care of yourself right every day to make sure that you're doing well, when something happens, you're already prepared to do better.
Now, what are some of the environmental factors that affect our ability to fight off foreign invaders?
Yeah, so first I would say, again, our thoughts, right? Because if our thoughts are that you can go to the store and buy anything, or convenience store, and your idea of lunch is some fast food restaurant or some chips and a soda or something of that nature, that's an environmental factor that's going to wear your body down and make you highly susceptible to problems. Chemtrails, very toxic water. And you see the books right here next to me. Well, maybe you can't see them, but I just want to show them very quickly.
Sure.
These are books. The number one is this one, written by Dr. Wesley Muhammad. We have Medical Apartheid by Harriet Washington, and then The Pot Plot by Dr. Wesley Muhammad. These are books that I think that people really, really have to get, they have to study, because we have hormone levels, estrogenic hormone levels in the water around this country that are feminizing men and masculinizing women. And most people don't know anything about this. A lot of people haven't done the type of research to know that there are many what we call endocrine disruptors in the food, in the water, in makeup, in lotion, in soap, in ice cream. And so we are literally living in a world right now where we have options. We're not taking the options because we don't know how bad what it is that we're doing. And so environmentally, people are in trouble in this country and around the world, but I'm specifically speaking for this country because they are ignorant to what is being done. And when things are being done to the degree that they're being done, and when things are brought to the attention of the industrial climate in this country and nothing changes, then that means either people don't care about what's happening to you or they're doing it intentionally. And either way, environmentally, we have so many things that are happening in a society that could potentially cause us much suffering in the future.
And what is your greatest suggestion to direct people to a journey of optimal health with an efficient and powerful immune system? You touched on exercising, you touched on eating right. What are some things that you recommend to achieve optimal health?
Well, it has to start again with thoughts, right? Because your thoughts have to be positive. You know, if you're listening to the television every day and you hear horrific information about this pandemic, that's going to definitely affect the way you think. So it starts with the thoughts. It starts with understanding how to choose the right foods. And I have to say that book right there behind me, you see it, How to Eat to Live by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is something that everybody should invest in because it is the best information that I have seen in my 26 years of practicing medicine. It has given people the best results and the results that don't take a lot of money and a lot of investigation. If you get the book and you try to follow it, it's going to give you the correct foods, the correct way to prepare them, things to stay away from, give you ideas that continue to foster you to continue to move in the direction of a healthy journey. So just quickly, the correct thoughts, the correct food and how to prepare them, fasting, drinking water and knowing the difference between drinking water and hydration, rest, which includes getting in a bed, sleeping, as well as fasting, which is another level of taking care of the body. And then lastly, it would be understanding that with the right type of foods, your elimination will be correct. So urinating and defecation is also highly important to how well the body is working.
Perfect, Dr. Akili. Let's pause here for our announcements from our sponsors. Coming up next, we will have more with Dr. Akili and his thoughts on the recent guideline changes coming from the CDC. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
The CDC and government officials have relaxed restrictions on physical distancing and protocols, as well as the use of PPE in large group settings.
For summer and kids going to camp. Number one, at situations where camps have everyone fully vaccinated, they are now saying it is safe to return to full capacity, that masking and social distancing are not necessary, not required, with some caveats, obviously, some certain situations that may want to be an option. Now, what about camps where not everyone is fully vaccinated? Because certainly we will see that. Indoor environments, masks strongly recommended if children are unvaccinated, or obviously if adults are unvaccinated, and also while in crowded and or poorly ventilated areas. Outdoors, they're saying even if unvaccinated, you guys, masks are not necessary, but they are encouraged if they're going to be in densely crowded outdoor settings. And of course, the caveat medically, children with compromised immune systems absolutely should be consulting their pediatrician.
Joining us again is Dr. Akili. Thank you, sir. Dr. Akili, as we heard in the last clip, local governments, businesses, and camps have begun to relax preventative measures such as appropriate physical distancing, mask wearing, and not gathering in large numbers. Is it a mistake to loosen these social distancing protocols, even for fully vaccinated people?
My personal assessment is absolutely it's a mistake.
Okay.
And I would qualify that statement by the reality of the VAERS system that continues to report many people having problems with the vaccine. Secondly, I would qualify that statement based on the information that I am hearing from my colleagues all over the country, whether they're working in hospitals and urgent care centers, regular medical offices, or the emergency room. Almost to a person, they're talking about the strange realities that they're seeing. And those are the words that they're using: strange, bizarre, when they're referencing the people that they're seeing coming in that have been vaccinated. And the number of people that they are seeing in the hospital with the actual infection seems to be more of the vaccinated people than unvaccinated people. So that is a huge concern to me. And of course, those of us who have been doing research about pandemics and viral infections and vaccines for years, we know that the Spanish flu was considered on its way down when the vaccination started. And during the vaccination campaign, the pandemic actually got worse and many millions more people were killed. And I do mean killed because if the deaths and the sicknesses increase after vaccination, then that's not the pandemic. That is a man intervention that caused more death. Right. And that is my concern, is that what I'm hearing from my colleagues, what I'm seeing on the vaccine adverse event reporting system, and then historical information, I think it's a huge mistake. And, again, one of the things that we have to take in consideration is the way people are thinking. And I would ask each individual that has an opportunity to listen to this is to maybe when the show is over, just sit down by yourself and ask yourself, has the CDC, the FDA, has the government in general, or any of its entities filled you with confidence? The way that they have acted since this pandemic started, the information that has been given to us that sometimes flip-flops, changes from time to time, are you confident in what they are saying? If your answer is no, I would suggest that you continue to protect yourself to the best of your ability, just like when the pandemic first started. Because if I am wrong, then you'll probably be okay. But if I am right in my concerns, there are going to be a lot more deaths coming up this summer.
And will loosening these restrictions lead to an increase in the COVID-19 infection rates? With your commentary about the latest victims being those who have been vaccinated, and then in recent news, Texas relaxing all restrictions ahead of the vaccines coming out. What do you think about loosening these restrictions leading to an increase of the COVID-19 infection?
Yeah, so, I am greatly confident and sure that the relaxation from the government, as well as the states that are giving these relaxed measures, it's an economic ideology and not a medical ideology. Okay. Because historically, when you have pandemics, once you see the numbers start to come down, you still keep those mandates that you put in place to decrease it. You keep those in until you see it come down, and it's sure to be down. There are things that we use, epidemiological studies and other things that we do from a perspective of medicine and, of course, the entities in the medical field that look at those type of things. And to me, we have not had, and over the pandemic, we've seen multiple states relax. And then what happens? The numbers go right back up. We've seen that on a state basis. And now that it's pretty much a national reality, I am not confident that this pandemic is over. I'm not confident that the vaccine has done anything to thwart this situation. And I'm very concerned that a lot of people in this country are restless, are tired of being at home, they're tired of the restrictions, and there hasn't been a worthwhile education process during that pandemic so people really understand why certain things have to happen. And so I think out of ignorance, out of a desire of people wanting to get back to whatever they consider normal, I am concerned that there's going to be another increase in cases. And with a relaxed reality, it's going to spread pretty quickly. And let's also consider that if the vaccines are causing as many problems as they are, we're going to have a large number of people, because as of right now, I think they're saying approximately half of America has been vaccinated.
Right.
And so if half of America has been vaccinated and half of America has a weakened immune system because a vaccine is destroying your body, there's going to be a very quick spread of another phase of this pandemic if it starts to go back on an increase. It's going to be pretty scary to the general public.
Right. Now, previously, we learned that getting the COVID-19 vaccine would not protect people from getting the virus or spreading it. Has that changed?
That has not changed at all. There has been no evidence out of these studies that are saying that a person who is vaccinated there's nothing in these studies that are saying that once you get vaccinated, you won't spread it or catch it. And like I'm saying, my colleagues around the country are noticing that after people, and most of them are talking about the double shot vaccine. So we're talking about the Pfizer and the Moderna. It seems like after the people are getting their second shot, they become more susceptible to getting the infection. And so if that's what a large number of practitioners around this country are seeing, then that means that if the numbers start to increase, vaccinated people won't serve any change to the reality of what's about to happen. And so, of course, as we saw in the clip, where all of these mandates, and I shouldn't say mandates, it's more like policy, right? These are just like so-called new public policies on what should happen if all the people in the camp are vaccinated versus if they're not. See, this is still propaganda, because for you to make comments, and we're seeing this all around the country from the media, they're making comments as if the vaccines have proven that they are keeping people from spreading and catching the disease. Right. And that's just so far from the truth. It is a great disservice and misinformation that's being spread to the public that when you are vaccinated, it's going to be more safe and you can take off your mask and you can not worry about social distancing. Well, in the next month or two, we're really going to see what that type of information is going to do. And then I hope that people in general will see that the information that's coming from these organizations is not reliable.
What about the mutated strains of the COVID-19 virus? Is the vaccine protecting or helping to protect those who are vaccinated from those strains, or do those strains render the vaccine obsolete?
Well, there are arguments on both sides of that coin. there has been no proof, again, from these vaccine companies that their vaccines are indeed able to stop all of these different strains. There has been no study to prove that. There are some studies in the works in different parts of the world to try to see if it is true, but there's nothing that has proven that to this point. And I'll just mention that we can all look at the reality in India. The India push to vaccinate their people started, I believe, in January. So it was about a month after the United States started their vaccination campaign. And we see what happened to that country after, I believe it was 5 months, of immunizations. And at that point, I believe it was somewhere in the range of 15 to 20% of their population was vaccinated. And of course, they have a much larger population than we do at 1.2 billion. But the point that I'm getting to is that after their vaccination campaign, they had a huge rise in their number of cases. We saw in the Worldometer that there were some days, some weeks, where they were 300,000 and more infected people. And so what is going to happen in this country with that type of reality? Now, the numbers probably won't be as high because we don't have as many people. But the point that I'm getting to is that if it happened there, it's potential that it could happen here.
Right.
That whatever were the reasons that the numbers went down, it can't be given to the vaccine. But if the vaccine is going to make people more susceptible, and we see the numbers go back up in this country, we're going to see some pretty horrific things like we were watching over there in India.
Now, have the adverse effects of the COVID vaccine on children been investigated with the VAERS system reporting, or with people reporting to the VAERS system daily? Have you received any information on whether or not the effects of the vaccine on children has been investigated or have begun to be investigated?
You know, I have not seen it. You know, my own research, I go to the VAERS system at least once or twice a week just to look at what the numbers are looking like, looking at what the cases are. And I haven't seen any cases. Of course, it's a lot of information, so I'm not saying it's not there. But I haven't seen any of the younger people. I've seen 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19, 20. I've seen quite a few in that age range. But since the numbers were decreased down to 12 and the vaccine, of course, craze to try to get these young people vaccinated as well, I haven't seen a lot of information on VAERS from that. But again, you know, the vaccine being decreased to 12 only happened, you know, there's so much information coming at such a rate, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's been around a month. And so I'm not necessarily sure there's enough information yet, or has been enough time for us to really see the reality of what may potentially happen. Because when we think about when the United States started vaccinating adults, of course, we started in December, but before the public was getting the shot, it was almost March, I believe, or in March. And we didn't see the numbers really increase in VAERS until about April. And so I'm expecting the same reality, is that maybe after a few weeks, maybe a month or so, after they have decreased that number down to 12, maybe we'll start seeing more reporting in the VAERS system. But as of right now, I don't know of any source where there is a good concentration on looking at what is happening to these younger people that have been vaccinated.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's pause for announcements from our sponsors. Up next, we will speak with Dr. Akili about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's warning about the vaccine and the recent findings from the medical community. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Classes begin September 1st. To enroll, visit AsiaticMinds.com.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
Greetings from National Network View. This week's Final Call cover story headline is A Call to Action. Children's Health Defense files petition for Food and Drug Administration to remove experimental COVID-19 vaccines from the market immediately due to reports of more deaths and injuries. This FCN volume number 36 edition middle page article is a message by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan entitled, Blacks Must No Longer Be a Consumer Nation. We must change to survive. To read more, subscribe to finalcalldigital.com and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the nnvnews.com Final Call cover report.
Please make sure you leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook, National Network View, and make sure to check us out on Twitter as well, National Network View. This is Sergio Gutierrez with National Network View, signing off.
We are back with Dr. Akili with more on the COVID-19 vaccine and the warning that we were given by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Dr. Akili, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan warns us against taking the COVID-19 vaccine. He said, we cannot let them bring anything to us that we don't dissect. Have our own virologists, scientists, and epidemiologists study the vaccines?
I think there have been those that are attempting to study the vaccine to the best of their ability. The problem is that we weren't included in the reality at its inception. And I believe that is the mandate that the minister gave us as healthcare professionals, is to go and do the research. But when somebody that has already started a process hands you a vial, that's not being included in the process. What were the steps? What were the actions? What were the ingredients used to put whatever you have in that vial that you're presenting to me? That's what the minister was talking about, from my understanding. We need to be included from the inception of anything that is going to be offered to the Black community, the brown community, the indigenous community, like this vaccine is being promoted. And I would say that the word propaganda would be the best, because in the beautiful presentation, the July 4th, 2020 criterion message by the minister, he said that there's a treacherous history when it comes to how Black, brown, and indigenous people are treated in this country and around the world. And so for Black people specifically to believe that somebody all of a sudden became benevolent and want to put us in the front of the line and do the best to get us healthy in a world, in a country, in an ideology that has never done anything to benefit us, that is a pretty I would say, ignorant conclusion to come to. And so when we are talking about the minister's message, I would suggest that people go to NOI.org and listen to it, and then come to your own conclusion. What did he say that hasn't shown itself to be true? There was a point in one of his other statements in times he spoke in public since then, where he said, this vaccine is death itself, or he said the shot is death itself. Well, we're looking at the number of deaths that are occurring. Well, we're looking at the number of VAERS reports that are skyrocketing. You can't say that the man didn't tell you truth. You can't say that Minister Louis Farrakhan wasn't honest, forthright, and truthful in his concern about what was going to happen to Black, brown, and indigenous people. And so at the end of this pandemic, at the end of when we get the truth about what has happened with this vaccine, we are going to be able to take that information, look back at what the minister said on July 4th, and we will certainly see that, again, this man is telling the truth, has told the truth, and then we walked into the reality of the truth that he told us.
Right. Now, I recently ran into a quote that was made by a Dr. Peter Maloney from the medical community. In his statement, he says, "The conclusion is we made a big mistake. We didn't realize it until now. We thought the spike protein was a great target antigen. We never knew the spike protein itself was a toxin and was a pathogenic protein. So by vaccinating people, we are inadvertently inoculating them with a toxin that gets into the circulation. And when that happens, it can cause damage, especially in the cardiovascular system. And there are many other legitimate questions about the long-term safety of this vaccine. For example, with it accumulating in the ovaries, my question is, will we be rendering young people infertile?" So with that statement, what are your thoughts on what he has just said? And what are your thoughts on what he has said in relation to the warning the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave us?
Yeah, so firstly, I'll say that I don't know anything about this doctor. I never heard of him before, so I don't know what to say about him being credible, not credible. But I'm going to just take his statement and put it in the context of our conversation and say that he, to me, represents what many physicians, many scientists, many epidemiologists, and other people in the healthcare field represent. And that is that many of them do have a sincere concern for people. Many of us wound up in the healthcare field because we wanted to serve people and serve them in a way that would make them better. And if he is, of course, that type of a person, then what he is expressing is the truth of what he has investigated and what he has found. There are many people out there like that.
Right.
And then we have to balance that type of reality with, well, why would somebody rush to produce a vaccine if we didn't have this type of information? And was that a mistake or was that intention? And so that is, I think, the most important aspect, is that you have many innocent people out here that are finding out things, but they weren't the ones that either did the alterations to some of these infections we've been seeing over the last few years, nor are they the ones that wanted to push vaccines on everybody. And then in his latter part of his statement about it winding up in the cardiovascular system.
Yes.
Well, when something winds up in the cardiovascular system of the human body, it's everywhere, right? The heart is pumping blood to every aspect of the human body. Every aspect of the human body is kept alive by the blood that is being pumped from the heart. And so, yes, the ovaries, the testicles of men, the prostate exam, the prostate gland, the liver, the kidneys, the heart, the brain, the muscles. People are having problems with every system in the human body because when you take a vaccine, it's an injection into a muscle, but it's slowly released into the bloodstream. And that's why you see one of the most common symptoms from the vaccine are similar symptoms to having a flu or having a cold or having some type of viral infection where your body fights it with a fever and muscle aches and maybe even joint aches. These are systemic symptoms, meaning all over the body. Whatever is happening, it's not happening right there at the injection site. It's happening all over the body. And so the possibilities are endless. But the things that you're hearing a lot of scientists from around the world mention are a future of no grandchildren, a future of infertility rates skyrocketing, a future of people that have mentally deteriorated quickly, people that are never the same after they've gotten a vaccine because of autoimmune disorders or other problems that just deteriorate the body. Yes, the minister didn't go into medical terminology. His presentation didn't have a lot of fancy, big polysyllabic words, but his presentation was clear. His presentation was truthful, packed with information that we could listen to over and over and over again and still keep getting new information. And so people like this doctor and many others are going to be the people that potentially are going to present to the public the reality of what the minister said in its minutia, the information on the very scientific basis that the minister was giving us a warning of before all of this even happened. So there are going to be a lot of people that are going to start to see the reality of who the minister is.
That's right. Dr. Akili, thank you for your insight on this COVID-19 and its recent, the recent information that has come out about it. Before we let you go, can you give us some information about what you'll be discussing with the Ultimate Wellness Group this evening?
Yes, ma'am. We're having a very beautiful show this evening where we'll be discussing the technology that we are taking part in the Church of Scientology. So when people hear the word Dianetics or they hear the word auditing, people hear the word Church of Scientology. A lot of times these are highly controversial topics. Tonight we'll be talking to 3 very brilliant people who are involved in the process, who are very good at explaining it. And, you know, the thing that I may do to put this in context is the same way that the minister warned us against this vaccine and everything that he said is coming true right in front of our face. The minister also told us that if we go to the Church of Scientology and use the technology that they have to make us better, to make us more efficient in the things that we are involved in, that it would be a good thing for us. And so that's why we're having that conversation tonight, to make sure that people understand the benefits that we can get by using that technology. So I pray that you will come in and join us at The Ultimate Wellness Group on YouTube, the THEE Ultimate Wellness Group on Facebook, and come join the show, ask your questions, and let's have a beautiful conversation where we'll come out enlightened on something that may really benefit our lives. And thank you again for having me, sister.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We look forward to hearing from you again next week.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for joining us today and tuning into National Network View News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, NNV News. This is Rosalind Parks for National Network View News. Good night.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.